Welcome into DNVR Buffs Live. We are, of course, presented by the American Raptors. Head on over to AmericanRaptors.com. Get your free ticket for one of their rugby matches or stream all of their games on that website. Again, it's AmericanRaptors.com. Welcome into the show, Buff Nation. My name is Jake Shwantiz. Today, I am joined by my guy, Andre Simone. RK and the gang, of course, out in London. So we've got Dre back for the second time on this show.
That's right.
Things have changed quite a bit, Dre, since the last time you were on.
Yeah, the preseason show we did, lots has changed.
Yes, there's a new quarterback, there's a new coach, lots of new players have been playing, and we're going to talk about a lot of it.
A new quarterback or an old quarterback, some may say.
Well, I mean, we've gotten both, I guess.
I know. In some ways, we've come full circle.
We really have.
Right back to the JT Shroud o'clock.
Yes,
yeah.
It's been turbulent. What can I say? And we're going to talk about more of
fun
that.
2 months on the job for you, man.
It's been eventful, I'll say that. Let's
doubt.
talk about your opinions on this coaching carousel, though. It's a very interesting, as it stands right now, a very interesting crop of candidates. And CU is, I mean, they're going up against a lot of teams already. Wisconsin, Nebraska.
Yes.
Teams that can hire a lot of these guys that we talked about, RK and I did on the tier list show a few weeks back. I just want to get your thoughts real quick. There are a lot of candidates we talked about, a lot of different candidates. What type of coach do you think Colorado football needs? Talking like archetypes. I mean, you can go just offensive, defensive, a recruiter, all of that combined, an older guy, younger guy. Where do you think CU needs to go in this direction?
I mean, it's easy. It's low-hanging fruit, but I think it would go a long way to have an offensive-first head coach. Not that you didn't have that in Karl Dorrell. Mel Tucker and McIntyre more on the defensive side. But I do think at this point, I think that would make a huge difference in your ability to really focus in on the offense and try to find a system that's a little more appealing, that can allow you to score a little more points, to make this program just feel like it belongs in the Power 5 of college football in 2022, which we haven't had. I mean, certainly this year we haven't had it. So, I think in a lot of ways we would take 4-win seasons, 5-win seasons if you were scoring more points a lot easier.
Right.
Than it's been accepting what the last couple of years have been. As far as an archetype, I don't know that we even have one because we are entering such a new era of college football. We'll find out who's really doing this right in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's still kind of unknown. We're still kind of playing it out, seeing how it works. I mean, this summer, I would have told you, wow, looks like Jimbo and A&M have really figured it out. Well, the on-field product would suggest maybe less so. It's really intriguing what USC has been doing in both going out and poaching the best talent in the Pac-12 and the kind of the big money, and obviously all the big money they threw at Lincoln Riley, and just the fact that they've kind of recommitted the university to really being elite at college football. For starters, that recommitment being heavily monetarily based is a must to really compete in the Pac-12. But that's not an answer to your coaching search question. So we got to kind of figure out the archetype, but it needs to be someone who's willing to really embrace this new way. And, you're not USC, so you're not going to be able to poach the best talents from the other Pac-12 programs. But you could go out to the Mountain West. You could go out to the G5 schools and be like, hey, we've got an opportunity to play some Power 5 football. Yep. Michigan State, very intrigued to see what Mel Tucker was doing. And last year really paid dividends. A lot of JUCO transfers, a lot of NIL inspired actual transfers. This year it's worked out less. Yep. So we're very much in flux of figuring out who's doing it right and what is even the model to follow right now.
Well, and then you have the old school model, too, of just hiring a guy that can bring in recruits and develop them. What we saw up close with Oregon State.
Yeah.
Jonathan Smith
Yeah.
hired 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And their turnaround has really just been year over year, just building on what has been done in the previous years. And this year, all of a sudden, they look like one of the better teams, if not probably in that top echelon of the Pac-12 with their amount of speed and just veteran playmakers that they've been able to develop.
Yeah. I do worry / wonder if that will still be possible a couple years from now.
It's an ever-changing landscape. I think that's got to play a factor into this too. You need to have someone who's willing to be at the forefront of this new college football landscape. So what I'm saying is someone who's aggressive in their recruiting. Yes.
And someone who can work hand in hand with the athletic department and the rest of the university in really bringing the Buffs into this new era of college football. And I might not have all the answers, but I'm willing to explore and kind of, try out all these different avenues of acquiring and adding talent. That's where you got to get way better. Like, you got to change the page.
Well said. Let's talk about some names then. Before we get back to that tier list specifically, who are some guys that you think in this coaching cycle could really be program changers and program trendsetters and be those type of guys to bring programs back from the dust? Who are the guys on your short list that you would consider?
Are you hearing any new names? I mean, you threw out so many names when this first started. The Matt Rule news has since occurred, and I know you guys have talked about that. What are you like? Is this really a 30 wide type candidate list? Is it even more? Are you getting a sense that that circle is tightening a little and some candidates have been removed? Obviously, it's so early and it's a weird cycle because, as you mentioned, you're already competing against Wisconsin and Nebraska for these coaches.
Right. I'd say that the net is still cast very wide at this point in time. I haven't really heard anyone that was a hard no at this point. I think, today actually I heard about Tom Herman and just what he's been doing away from football, and it seems like he actually has a lot of stuff in his life going on, and that football is not really tangible at the moment, which is why he's out of football right now.
Wow, huh?
So
fascinating.
I think that's something a lot of people, I know a lot of Buffs fans really like Tom Herman.
Yeah, he'd make sense to me.
They were all for him on some of the polls I put up on the Buffs page, but I just don't know how realistic he can actually be, though. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, because he's maybe not my tippy top, but he is one of those profiles where it feels like he needs a change of scenery. He needs a bounce back opportunity. Obviously, offensive mentality. Obviously, when you come from one of those like Urban Meyer coaching tree, you're going to have a ton of connections, a ton of intriguing young names to, in your phone to just text and be like, hey, how's Boulder sound to you? Know? So that's really interesting. Okay, that's a good update to have.
Let's get into the list then. I can't even remember how many guys. It was 34 plus that we went. We did end up with a group of guys that we had ranked above all the rest, though. Our S tier guys, Kurt Signetti at James Madison. That is Ryan's guy. He loves him. Deion Sanders is an S tier. I think we can all agree. Not very realistic. It would be a lot of fun, and he would bring in the recruits, though.
Yeah.
Kalani Sitake at BYU. BYU's kind of taken a dip recently. Started off the year really hot.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Gary Patterson, assistant to the head coach at Texas. Troy Taylor, Sac State. Kenny Dillingham's a guy I really like at Oregon, the offensive coordinator. So that's about it. RK was up there too, but I think we can both agree that RK maybe not a realistic option. Although I might be wrong.
If they called, I think he'd consider it for sure. He's been around the program. He knows some stuff. I don't feel like RK has enough of the chops to get the Buffs out of the muck they are stuck in right now.
I think I like RK better in his current spot anyway.
I do too. That's the bigger concern.
He has free reign to talk about the Buffs.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe that's a better way to impact the program right there.
So we take our guy out. That leaves us with 6 S tier guys at the top.
You said Paul Christ.
Yes, Paul Christ was up there also, I believe. Okay. We have the whole A tier too. Bronco Mendenhall, Jamie Chadwell at Coastal. Matt Rule was in there. His name escapes me. The guy at NDSU right now. Garrett Riley also in that A tier. of all of these names in S and A tier, who stands out to you?
Garrett Riley for sure. Garrett Riley, and Dillingham's the Oregon guy, right?
Yep.
I think both those guys as kind of upcoming dudes who have been around other programs who have proven track records of going after and getting talent, know how to get that talent compensated, know how to get that top talent to come through the doors and invest, are definitely intriguing and very much the profile I would be going after. Now, I do think that some prior head coaching experience would help, though that's not a must for me. If, for example, the Broncos were to fire Hackett, I do think that prior head coaching experience would be a must for that candidate. I don't think it's as much for the Buffs, but it certainly wouldn't hurt, and that's where a guy like Gary Patterson really intrigues me.
Yep.
That's a proven track record. That's a guy who was at TCU as they made that jump from the Mountain West to the Big 12 and was able to, like, make it work. I mean,
They went to Rose Bowls.
yeah, they were an outstanding program for a long stretch of time. Maybe lost a little juice. Don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
More of a defensive guy. And those most recent TCU squads for defensive head coach were not the most inspiring, let's say.
Right.
So I do see some of the shortcomings for Gary Patterson, but I would love to have that Texas foothold in recruiting. That's something that Garrett Riley would give you also.
Yep.
I think that's an area that CU really needs to get back at, recruiting hard. I think they've kind of lost some of that, those roots in Texas, which is what made the great Buffs teams of the early 90s so good.
Jeff Grimes at Baylor, another guy that's really liked amongst the fan base, a guy that is impressive in terms of his resume too.
Yeah, so he would be intriguing. I think, Mendenhall's another one that's got my attention, kind of in that in that Gary Patterson grouping of head coaching. The small school guys, I really don't know what to think.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about before we moved on.
The small school guys, I don't know what to think. There's not a ton of track record for guys like that making the jump to the Power 5.
Mm-hmm. The one guy that's
Craig
really
Bull at
me,
Wyoming makes me, but he's older. I think he's got less like sexiness and juice.
Yes.
And also he went to Wyoming. But again, like Craig Bull right about now sign me up.
Right.
Like a reliable guy who can turn you into a respectable program and, make you competitive in any conference matchup. I'd take that right about now.
For sure. The one small school guy that I would really consider talking to is Brent Vegan at Montana State. Shout out to Henry. This is a guy who really followed Craig Bull around a lot, was really integrated into that North Dakota State program, coached there from 98 to 2013 in a variety of roles, offensive coordinator, running backs, quarterback, passing game coordinator. He went with Craig Bull to Wyoming as the offensive coordinator and QB coach. A guy named Josh Allen was the guy he coached up.
Not bad. Not bad.
Out of all the, FCS and lower level guys, he would be my favorite.
And they've been good. Montana State's been good. They've made some improvements. We've noticed as draft guys kind of the injection of talent they've had there. I like some of these guys in your B tier, but I don't want to jump segments on you. And I also think Ryan Walters at Illinois, I think there's something to work with there. I wouldn't overlook him too much.
He is going to be a hot name for sure in this coaching search. Give me those B tier guys, though, before we move on, actually. Who do you like in that B tier?
I love me some Dan Mullen. I love me some Dan Mullen. He's from that Urban Meyer coaching tree. He's the guy who really helped design that Tim Tebow offense.
Yep.
That kind of
Dak at Mississippi State too.
Exactly. Took college football by storm. I mean, guys like Percy Harvin didn't really exist before this Dan Mullen, Urban Meyer offense came out. And now everyone's got, Wan'Dale Robinson, got that gadget, slot, scat back kind of. Yep. He's a million things at once. Yeah, the slash player. The guy who we wish maybe KD Nixon would have been. And then he does it again with Dak. Amazing career at Mississippi State. Shit, I thought a pretty good tenure at Florida early on, too. Odds were stacked against him. I mean, look at where Florida's been in the post-Urban Meyer decade plus. Dan Mullen was some of the most successful era of Gators football. A little pushback from ADs and donors that he wasn't going after those really big-name recruits. Kind of an issue we've seen with some of the Texas coaches that haven't worked out in the past. So I think maybe a place like Colorado would intrigue him. I mean, the fact that you have a track record of being able to do it at Mississippi State in the SEC West, to me proves that, yeah, I mean, even with the odds stacked against you at Colorado in the Pac-12, a guy with this resume can kind of do it. He's a dude who, to me, has a little more juice than a Gary Patterson, has a little more track record in multiple places, and that offense really intrigues me. I mean, that offense intrigues me a lot and doesn't look too dissimilar. It's kind of a modern version of what those great Buffs offenses of years past
right.
were.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff that lines up. Does he have enough say in the recruiting foothold that the regions the Buffs want to be in? No, probably not, but he's Dan Mullen.
Yep. Like,
you've seen him on TV for 20 plus years. Tebow, Dak Prescott. Like, you don't need much of an introduction,
right,
to be like, wait, can I trust this guy?
The fan base, I think, could easily rally around a hire of Dan Mullen.
Jeez,
one thing I will say about Dan Mullen, I think we're seeing a bit of his shortcomings at Florida this year. They're just talent-wise not up to par with a lot of the teams they're going up against in the SEC. They're like, I think it's the biggest spread that Florida is being an underdog in against Georgia in a long, long time.
He wouldn't play Anthony Richardson, which was weird with how good Richardson looked later, though now maybe he's being a little justified. Mm-hmm. You're right. There's a bit of a deficiency in talent that is left over from him that makes you wonder.
Yep.
A little Jim McElwain-esque.
Yes, but a very intriguing name nonetheless. That's enough coaching talk for now. We'll get back to it in a week or two as we tend to. Real quick, though, I want to talk to you guys about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Dre and I were just on the DNVR Bet Show. If you catch that before tonight's Nuggets game, we have an SGP that we built in there. All kinds of odd boosts and stuff going on at DraftKings. There's a free $5 bet for an SGP. I think they boosted Kevin Durant and Giannis 20-plus points. They're playing each other tonight.
Right.
So,
yeah.
All kinds of great deals going on at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Now, use the promo code DNVR and make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code DNVR. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Also, shout out to our friends at Athletic Greens.
Let's go. AG.
I've been feeling it this week, man. I've needed my Athletic Greens in the morning to keep me going. It's been a long week. I mean, the guys are all in London. A lot of time needs to be made up here. Trying to film where I can. AG has been my saving grace.
Let's go.
Filled with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements. Athletic Greens are your pills and supplements with all those minerals and vitamins packed in. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune support and vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/buffs. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/buffs to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Beautiful.
All right, Dre, this segment...
Are you leaning towards anyone since you last did a segment here?
Am I what?
On this coaching search?
Am I leaning towards anyone?
Yeah, what are Jake's thoughts?
I loved Dillingham when we did the whole thing, and I think his stock has only really gone up. I'm a massive Bo Nix hater. I know I've talked about it a ton on this show, on the Draft Pod. Not a fan of him. The work he's done with him to build an offense that really complements his skill set and get players open for him has been eye-opening, I think.
Yeah.
And he's also one of the best recruiters in the country from multiple sources. So
that's the thing about him and Garrett Riley is, like, you look at those resumes, those guys are ascending super quick.
Yep.
There are some of these dudes where you do wonder, like, why are they just doing this now?
Mm-hmm.
Or why, like, did it take them 20 years to get here? No questions with Dillingham or Garrett Riley. It's just like, they're taking off. It's very much, they're similar resumes to what Mel Tucker had coming into the Buffs. Yeah.
On Oregon, though, let's talk about the Pac-12 and the playoff, because coming into this year, I think USC and Utah were kind of the favorites. They end up falling early in the season. UCLA became the undefeated favorite last week. They fall to Oregon. Now it looks like the ball's in Oregon's hands. That week 1 loss to Georgia, though, it's an ugly, ugly loss against another potential playoff team.
Brutal loss.
So my question to you is this: has the Pac-12 cannibalized itself and killed their chance of a playoff team this year?
That loss coming to Georgia in particular, if Georgia were to lose to, say, Tennessee.
Right.
Or any of those 3 SEC, like, if Oregon won the Pac-12, it does really open the door for 3 SEC teams. If, all those SEC teams have one loss, played each other close, and it's like, well, Oregon also has one loss, but did not play Georgia close.
Yeah.
They got absolutely murdered from start to finish.
Well, I think if Tennessee also comes out passing on them, maybe you kind of look back and go, Kenny Dillingham, Bo Nix, Oregon, what was going on that you couldn't manufacture any type of offense? They scored 3 points.
Well, and that's the other thing is, as good as Oregon may look, ultimately one of their leaders, their quarterback, is a guy who couldn't hack it in the SEC.
Right.
It's not a great look.
Yep.
It just isn't. I think you got to be rooting hard for USC. Because the committee, national perception, fan base, media, everyone's going to buy into USC.
Mm-hmm.
The brand, Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, Jordan Addison. I mean, we can go on and on and on. It all just lines up so beautifully. And their one loss being,
a 1 point loss to Utah.
A 1 point loss to
At Utah.
Yeah. And I mean, at Utah, like, to be expected, if you run the table and you take care of Oregon, you take care of UCLA, your resume is going to look pretty nice, man.
So
they've got Notre Dame on the schedule too, right?
So final game. That kind of segues into my next question. Who do you believe in more out of Oregon, USC, Utah? You're going with USC, it sounds like.
I definitely believe in USC's coaching and talent most. I think of those 3 teams, I'd add UCLA. I think USC and UCLA are neck and neck. I've not lost faith in Chip Kelly. DTR's got some things going. They're the only team I feel fairly confident to say, like, I think they're better in the trenches on either side than the Trojans, or at least can be right there.
Yeah.
And they got their loss out the way, man.
True. Very true. Let's go to this next question then. The Pac-12 went away with divisions. Who do you think is in the Pac-12 title game? So it's just the 2 top teams going by conference record. Right now, it would be Oregon at the top of the chain. I think below them is Utah at this point, just because they haven't, or they did lose. Who did they lose to in conference? I can't remember off the top of my head. They lost to
Utah?
Florida, yeah.
See, I can't look because then it'll spoil the week 9 lines. Utah,
their second loss.
Was it UCLA? It was UCLA.
It was UCLA. It was that Friday night game.
Yeah, it was that game that seemed too good to be true with being able to get Utah at the plus, and then UCLA smoked them.
So here's the Pac-12 standings right now. Sitting at the top of the conference, Oregon 4-0. USC at 4-1, so they got the extra win over UCLA and Utah in
Both
conference.
teams 6-1 overall.
Yes.
Yeah.
So UCLA, Utah, mean, Utah with 2 losses, with that 1 loss in conference, so they're still in the conversation here. You just got to keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nightmare scenario for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
That's
Utah
the nightmare.
drops another loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Utah wins it with 2 L's.
So then
One of them being to lowly Florida. Like they're screwed. Then the conference is screwed.
Yeah. Oregon USC would be the title game now. Does that hold, do you think?
What really worries me is, I mean, so I guess the answer to your question ultimately is yes. I do worry that they've cannibalized themselves too soon. We're at week 8. One of these teams should be undefeated.
Yep.
Them all having 1 loss when USC still needs to play Oregon and UCLA.
They don't play Oregon in season.
Oh, that
USC
helps.
has
I
Arizona, Cal, Colorado, UCLA, Notre Dame.
Okay, that's huge. I worry, sneaky L here, sneaky L there, that it might kind of be a 2-loss Oregon against a 2-loss USC.
Yep. Looking that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't rule out UCLA. I've been really impressed by them. I think if they win that game against USC down the line and can just keep gathering wins until then, they're definitely in play also.
I mean, just go back to that USC-Oregon State game.
Right.
UCLA's run game and what they can do on run defense, Trojans better come ready because that's going to be a toughie. That's going to play right into, I mean, Utah too. That's going to play right into USC's kind of weaknesses.
Absolutely. We'll table the playoff talk for further down the line. We'll guess some lines here, but before then, tell you guys about our final sponsor in Hassel Cattle Company.
Let's go. The best, man.
Dre,
best.
Every time I do a Hassel Cattle Company raid, I can't help but think of you and your problems with your daughter and the fact that she only eats Wagyu beef now from Hassel Cattle.
Only eats Wagyu beef. It's a real issue. It's a real issue. But when you eat Wagyu beef and then you try to go back to normal beef, you would understand her dilemma.
100%.
I'm just going to say that Hassel Cattle Company is great, but when you said all I can think about is Andre's problem, like I had 15 come to my head immediately, and I'm like, which one has to do with Hassel Cattle Company?
That's a good point. Hassel Cattle beef is raised in Texas on a family farm. It's the best damn Wagyu beef you'll ever eat, and it's shipped right to your door. It is going to be cheaper than what you would pay for. I mean, you can't even really get Wagyu beef in a grocery store, so you're getting a hell of a deal and you're getting a better product.
It's going to be cheaper than what you can find like regular crappy beef at King Soopers for.
100%. It's called the Blue Collar American Wagyu beef, and it can be shipped anywhere in just days. Head on over to hasslecattlecompany.com to secure your bag of beef and use code DMVR20 for 20% off your entire purchase. That's DMVR20 for 20% off.
Why are we so low on Troy Calhoun?
I don't know if he makes the jump. I think he's pretty comfortable.
Well, that's fair enough.
But
that's like saying, like, why shouldn't I marry Giselle? You're like, well, I don't think you have much of a chance.
That too.
That's not the question, Jake. It's why should I marry her?
He has shown that he can take players that are not nationally recruited and turn them into good football players and playing together.
Yeah.
Year over year at Air Force. I mean, they've been a Mountain West contender the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So that's what attracts you to him. I think you do worry offensively. I mean, I think he said before that he wouldn't bring the triple option. I think Ryan said that before on the show.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's a Shanahan disciple.
He is, yes.
Like, he's got that in his... To me, when you have both the Shanahan playbook and the triple option in your bag, it's like, holy like, sign me up.
It'd make it a fun offense, and if anything, CU has some backs right now. So it would work, I think, I don't want to say it'd work immediately, but you would see signs of it coming along, I think, in year one.
Yeah. I do think it's easy to be like, oh, Air Force, CU, easy transition. No, I mean, recruiting's a completely different deal. Air Force recruits nationally because it's an academy, like they have to recruit now. It's a completely different deal. I get that. But his offensive resume intrigues me.
He'd be very intriguing. He'd be fun too. Let's play some.
We've talked to him. We feel like he's a dude who can look you in the eyes and give you good answers. Like, I could see him performing well in a kid's living room and like not not bullshitting you.
Yeah.
Could he figure out all the NIL and that kind of stuff? That I don't know.
Well, and to your point, head coaching experience also,
Yes.
which is something
Yeah,
that
right.
could be big.
Sign me up.
Yeah, let's play Guess the Lines here.
Woo!
We played yesterday for the NFL. We're going to play for the Pac-12 today. What is our first game that you have up, Yaya? There it is.
Look
Utah.
at
This is
that.
tomorrow, actually. Utah
Thursday nighter.
heading to Pullman to play Cam Ward and the Washington State Cougars.
Cam Ward, what are you doing to me?
What are you going to guess this line is, Dre?
Wazoo really falling apart after a really intriguing
Yep.
start. That would have been a team I would have brought up. You know, they just went internal hire, and it's worked out pretty well for them. But I won't stall anymore as I think this through. Great matchup, a logo matchup right here.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Utah at Wazoo. That's not an early game at 8 p.m. on a Thursday. I'm right around that touchdown. I'm going to say the Utes get touchdown and a hook. Give me Utes by 7.5.
I had 10.
That's a good one. I mean, you got to go a little more aggressive. I'm the Cam Ward believer on staff here, so.
What is it, Yaya?
So it is Utah -7.
Oh, let's go. Right on
Wow.
the money. Love that.
Interesting. Maybe they are
Love
kind of
that.
playing into that Thursday night atmosphere in Pullman. I just figured Utah
Right.
is such a better team.
It's late, too. Are they such a better team?
I think so, man. Look at the quarterbacks. Cam Rising's so much better
I
than
know.
Cam Ward.
Wazoo can get after you.
They-
Wazoo's
defensively-
got some front seven talent.
Defensively, they have been very impressive. They are
They don't have Utah's tight ends.
They do not, no.
Yeah. Or running game, probably.
No. But I just think that Utah all around is... I think you're going to see Cam Ward do that thing he does where he's pressing a bit and gets himself into some trouble,
Yeah.
and it can kind of snowball a bit from there.
He giveth and he taketh. A little,
Yes.
if you squint, you see some of the Luke Falk deficiencies of years past.
Yes.
Not a comp you'll hear often, Cam Ward to Luke Falk. But there are
Love
some
that.
similarities.
Absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
Let's
Luke-
go to the next one, Yaya. What do we have?
I'm up 1-0, just FYI.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oregon at Cal. Cal has been... If it weren't for the Buffs, Cal is probably the worst team in this conference. Oregon,
Yeah,
we've
not
already
great.
talked glowingly about. This is obviously going to be a pretty big line. Where are you leaning here?
This is a tough one. Yeah, Cal doesn't give me much to work with here. I mean, it's college football. We're going to have to get crazy with the spread. I'm going to go Oregon -24.5.
That's exactly what I said.
Get out.
I have Oregon -24.5 right here. What is it, Yaya?
It is Oregon -17.
Wow.
We're over by a full touchdown.
We both went too heavy.
We
A
love the
little
Ducks
more-
then?
A little more respect. Yeah, I think we do.
Roadbow Knicks? We're going to put 17 on Roadbow
God.
Knicks?
It's still better than 24.5.
That's true. Very true. Yeah, love that for Oregon, actually. Cal has just been very uninspiring.
Oregon's defense and run game and just like general overall talent.
Troy
Really-
Franklin at wide receiver.
Yeah.
That's a name.
Yeah. It's just generally kind of coming all together. Is Justin Flo ever going to be something?
What about Sewell, too?
I know.
Where have those guys been?
I know. It's sad.
Next game.
Pretty disappointing.
USC at Arizona. Arizona's been very feisty
Yeah.
with Jaden Delora, Jacob Cowling at wide receiver. They also have, are you familiar with Tatro McMillan?
No.
Four-star recruit playing his ass off for the Wildcats as a true freshman at wide receiver. He's like 6'4", 220.
It's two great receiving cores. I wonder what the total is on this. Must be in the 60s, and I'd probably hammer the over. SC, a real darling for the bookmakers, the sharps out there. Give me Trojans in a high-scoring affair, -20.5.
I went 14.5.
It is
On the road in Tucson.
On the road. to Tucson.
-15 for USC.
-15. So
You get that.
split that. 1-1-1 across the board right here.
Beautiful. Okay, going into the final two games.
Do you
This
have
is
that
big.
over?
I was about to say, do you guys want to know the over?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
It is. Give me a minute. Oh, man. I'm struggling back here, by the way, guys.
It's all good. I'll pull it up. I mean,
yeah, it is 76.5.
76.
Whoa.
I think the over's in play.
Oh my gosh.
The over's got to be in play. I think USC is going to score a bunch.
Almost like the under.
Arizona scores, though.
Arizona scores. Is that USC defense good enough to stifle them is the question.
That is. They create turnovers, though. And Jaden Delora does put the ball at risk. It could get ugly.
Could just be crazy, though. We're just like every team's getting a possession every minute and a half.
Yep. I'm scared. I like all these favorites so far.
That's a very uncomfortable total, which means hammer the over. They're begging
Let's go.
They're begging you to take the under.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Next game. Arizona State at CU. All right.
Crazy enough, I don't know this one.
The Buffs, of course, won their last game at home over Cal. They were 14.5-point dogs in that game. Won outright, of course, at 20-13. Arizona State, the battle of the interim coaches here also.
Right. I mean, that's another program you're almost directly competing for coaching candidates.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And then we already talked about him, but Emory Jones, once a Dan Mullen quarterback, now at Arizona State.
How's that working out?
Not great. Last week, Arizona State played Stanford. They lost 15-14. Stanford just kicked field goals. Arizona State scored 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's all they did.
Wow, that's crazy. Would you take Emory Jones over JT Shrout?
Yes.
Hell yeah. I don't even know what side to pick here. I'll go.
Arizona State's got to be favorited. The Buffs have shown nothing besides Cal.
I know, but they're coming off a win. They just covered 14.
2 weeks ago, but it was the first time they covered, first time they won. So this is a similar a similar spot, I guess you would say.
Are they not
from
1-1 under their interim head coach?
They are. They've talked about new season. They've talked about new season.
Brand new, man. We're 500. We can still make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is Bufftober. I don't know if you heard.
We're still talking possible bowl time.
Absolutely.
Bowl game at times.
Hey, you can get them 100. Yeah, 100 plus 100,000 to win the Pac-12 still. They're not mathematically out, guys.
I mean, the New Mexico Cactus Tostito Bowl, man, any day of the week for the Buffs.
Sign me up.
Hey, if they run the table in November, you beat Oregon, USC, Utah, and Washington.
Everything's
Who's to
in
say
play.
Colorado's not in play?
The Pac-12 might just end as a conference if that happened. Sorry guys, we're out. If the Buffs are winning this, we're out. ASU 2.5.
2.5.
You gave me some guidance, so I'm going 2.5. I would have gone Buffs minus.
I went 10.5.
Really? They stink though, Jake.
The book does not respect the Buffs whatsoever.
Well, and probably rightfully so. Their plus minus against the spread was just absurd.
Oh yeah, they're terrible.
But I think a little Folsom magic, a little Folsom magic.
Sanford brought it up.
Yeah, come on.
It is Arizona State minus 13.
13?
Oh, wow.
Again?
Okay.
The Buffs can get no respect.
No respect. So it sounds like you like Buffs plus 13, Jake.
I don't know if I'm that brave, though. But
I know. Buffs are
bet
not
uncomfortably.
Not a team you want to bet on, but they do feel very uncomfortable.
Maybe if this game
plus
is
13 maybe doesn't against this lowly Arizona. Maybe it's more uncomfortable to lay 13 on Arizona State.
I think that sounds reasonable, actually. I mean, it reminds me so much of the Cal game where the book couldn't help but make Cal 2 touchdown favorites. But you just looked at that number and went, Cal shouldn't be a 2 touchdown favorite over anyone. Same with Arizona State. What was 13.5 was the number?
13.5. Jeez. That's savage.
It's incredible. I mean,
it's a new season. I believe in these new run fits. I think they've got something going on.
So you're on
man.
CU?
I'm on CU.
Love it.
Give me
I
plus
think
13.
I think I'll take it too. Then
That might be the sucker side, frankly.
we'll see. We'll find out on Saturday at 5. Dre, thank you so much for hopping on the show today.
There's one more.
Oh, there's one more?
Yeah, I've got a chance.
Oh, I
to
thought we
tie
had
this.
Buffs as the last one. I'm sorry.
I've got a chance to tie
Go again.
this.
What did I miss? Stanford at UCLA.
What has happened to Stanford?
I'm going to tell you right now, Tanner McKee is going to be a guy that is talked about a bunch in March and April.
He is.
He's legit.
Yeah. Why does Stanford suck so bad then?
They can't get the.
I agree with you. Why are they so awful?
They can't get the hogs up front that they used to. They don't have a back like McCaffrey or Love anymore.
Coach Shaw just not what it used to be.
Your pick.
Bruins minus. God, they're at home. Minus 15.5 is speaking to me. I'm going 15.5. It's probably higher than that.
Ooh, I went 10.5.
Ooh. The Tanner McGee Kool-Aid gotcha. Huh?
Hey man, they hang around a lot.
So it is 16.5 for the Bruins.
Let's go. Chip Kelly versus David Shaw. That used to be a coaching matchup that mattered a lot.
Wow, it really did, didn't it? This
Not
was like
so much anymore.
They were determining Pac-12 conference winner in this matchup, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Crazy.
Not anymore.
Insane how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
David Shaw, what if he gets let go by Stanford?
In a heartbeat. David Shaw to me is like a dude.
Yep.
A dude. And great guy. Has put up with a ton of like restrictions and, stuff you have to deal with at Stanford that no one else has to deal with anywhere else, but they're making it work. Well, not so much anymore, but they've made it work.
Maybe he's just run his course there, though. I mean, Stanford.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing, like with Gary Patterson. Sometimes, like, 20 years is too much.
Yep.
Even Urban Meyer, like, the winning just didn't always continue. Even at Florida, things went down. Mac Brown, amazing at Texas, start to fall off. Pete Carroll, USC,
Right.
things did start to fall off after a little.
The thing with David Shaw, too, is Stanford's probably one of the only schools that have harsher transfer requirements than Colorado. So he's been able to kind of maneuver those and find guys. He's been able to obviously recruit California.
Yeah.
That speaks pretty much to what the Buffs need, I think.
100%. 100%. No, he'd really fit. Really fit nicely.
S tier? If he was on the list?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
S-tier. Yeah.
I think so. I agree. We'll keep an eye on it. I think there's a lot more coaching shakeups in the cards to moving forward.
Jeez, I should hope so. Lots of excitement. Would you rather USC in the playoffs or drink pickle juice?
Pickle juice. I love pickle juice.
Yeah, but USC in the playoffs is good for the conference.
I'm
also
okay.
I don't love pickle juice, so I gotta admit that.
I'm the Pac-12 guy. I've been doing a lot of Pac-12 stuff. I don't think USC matches quite up with the Michigans, the Clemsons, and the Georgias from what I've seen.
Fair
so far.
enough. And actually, I'd forgot that they're leaving in 2 years anyways, so maybe the conference is kind of like, screw you guys.
You gotta let your hate just kind of like overcome.
No, you might be right. Okay.
It's time to drink the Haterade, which is pickle juice.
Fine,
I mean,
give me the pickle juice.
If
I'll
USC
take it.
makes the playoff, though, the Pac-12 is welcoming that check, though, to whatever games they're in.
No doubt about that. No doubt
100%.
about that. Yep. They will leverage that however they can, as they should.
100%. Not to be premature this time. Thank you so much, Dre, for coming on the show.
Guy, thank you.
Maybe we do it again next week. We'll wait and see. We have an open spot on Wednesday again.
I am available.
We'll talk about it. Shout out to you, Buff Nation. We'll be back on Friday with the full preview. Actually, we're doing something pretty cool on Friday. We're going to have our guy from PHNX Sun Devils. Help me with his name. I just had it pulled up.
Sean DePaz?
Anthony Totri, actually, is who we have.
There you go.
So we're going to have a little DMVR PHNX crossover again.
Love that.
Stay
Those
tuned
guys
for
are
that.
dialed in on the pack just like you.
Oh, yeah. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time.
Great.
The time we talked with Mike Luke at PHNX Wildcats is great. So
Yeah.
look forward to that, guys. Thank you so much, Dre. Thank you, Yaya. Go Buffs. We're out.